Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I want to welcome you all, especially to today's Global Ubuntu Dialogue. And today we have a special guest, but before I go on to welcome our guest, I just also want to welcome all attendees. Like we said, it's a dialogue, but if it's your first time joining us today, we have quite a lot on all our social media platforms. So please do well to go there and engage with all the content that we've actually put out. We want to also specially welcome all our elders. Some of them will be joining us in today's dialogue. We want to also welcome you all. And today we have a special guest, and he is Mr. Bantehun Tezazo. Okay, I hope I pronounced it well. He's got a phenomenal CV. He's a professional engineer. He's a project management professional. He's also an author, a community organizer, a trainer with 30 years of engineering business experience. And he's worked in a number of sectors, actually. He's had his first 10 years in power system operation, and then in risk management, and then in investment management. So he's a man of many colors, a man of many shades. Time will fail me to actually go through every single thing that he's actually sent me on his CV. I'll just touch a little bit on his academic background and his professional affiliation. So he's obtained a Bachelor of Applied Science in Electrical Engineering, a Master's of Engineering, and all of these he's got from the University of Toronto in Canada in as far back as 1982 and 1988 respectively. And he's taken a number of courses in finance, in capital market, in investment in the instrument, in risk management, in leadership, in negotiation, and others over the years. Wow, quite a very impressive CV. And he's also a member of the Project Management International with Project Management Professional License and Professional Engineers of Ontario, excuse me. And he's also a member of the Civil Association. He's also a member of the Civil Society Organization. He's also worked with a number of organizations with respect to the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, join me and make welcome Mr. Bantehun Tezazo, okay, to today's Ubuntu Global Dialogue. I just want to warmly welcome you. Now, today's dialogue will take a different shape. He's got a couple of slides he's going to be sharing with us, and then intermittently, we're going to be asking questions. So I want to encourage all our attendees today, please do well to pop your questions on the Q&A as we carry on. Thank you. Mr. Bantehun, please could you share the slides?
Thank you, Dr. Amarachi. It was a pleasure. It's about 4 months ago, without any, by accident, I attended the Osiri University session, and I loved it from the first day. And after attending a couple of sessions, I spoke to Professor Osiri about, maybe I'll share some of my experiences. Oh, well, it changed, or it grew up to a stage where I am going to be teaching a course called New Integrated Power Resource Planning. And that is a huge course. In fact, that course is also the basis of my new, or it's not new anymore, for the last 10 years, I've been working on what I call the 4 EPR. Educationally, economically, environmentally engineered productivity revitalization. A mouthful, but nonetheless a very important initiative whereby it is trying to achieve a social innovation in the developing countries, in those developing countries being primarily the African countries. As you can see in the background on my back are the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. While I was working on my project to solve the myriad of problems in the African continent, I did a considerable amount of research as to why are we in the situation we are in, and what has been done in the past many years, and so on. So I started reading, attending lectures, and so on. And you know, at about the same time, I came across the works of some Africans and some initiatives that are going on, and I reviewed, you know, what were the NGOs doing in Africa for the last 60 years, and what have we achieved, and from all those, and in addition to that, in my career in Canada, as you pointed out, I've been working in various fields, and also my responsibility, particularly the last 15 years before I left the organization, I was running workshops, teaching directors, managers, vice presidents, and so on a huge company with about you know, over 15,000 people that supplies 30,000 megawatts of electricity from nuclear, hydroelectric, fossil, and all other sources. To those people, I was troubleshooting, identifying opportunities, translating them to business cases, and so on. I was teaching courses, I was mentoring those. And from that, I learned, you know, many opportunities. And, you know, after that, about 9 years ago, I, you know, willingly walked out of a huge responsibility. I said, I want to do something in the remaining part of my life. I have to do something in what is near and dear to me, the Ethiopian and the developing countries people. So that's how all these things started. And so I have had, as I pointed out earlier, you know, prior to my, you know, about 15 years prior to my departure, I was once given a huge responsibility for a population of 3 million people, the city of Toronto. I was asked to lead an integrated resource plan, a plan that would meet the electricity needs of the people of Toronto for the next 20 years. And multiple organizations joined my team, and that that activity with competing, conflicting interests, and so on, I was able to manage and cruise through those using integrating various disciplines and so on. And that conceived a very lasting impression in me that we have to really bring together various disciplines, economically, environmentally, technically, how we can be able to run all this. That's how the 4EPR concept came up. So I'm glad to continue with this, and before I proceed, do you want to have a follow-up question? Or okay, here is what I'm planning to do today. The first thing would be, after giving you this foundation or this introductory remarks, I am going to give you what did I have in mind. I consider myself as riding a bicycle. If I am riding a bicycle, if I look only close to the ground, I'll crumble and I'll fall. So I started looking and progressively focusing on moving targets. And that moving target is, what do we want to see Africa evolve, or Ethiopia evolve, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years? So I started with a 20-year focus or vision. And that vision entails what do we want to be. So that set up a goals. The goals that I started sharing in webinars, in blogs. It was blogs first, and then I created a website as early as 2013, way before the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. At about that same time, Dambisa Moyo came up with the Dead Aid for Africa, and the BBC had why was Africa poor kind of studies came up and so on. So, and then in 2015, I attended the UN Sustainable Development Goals, first in Addis Ababa, for financing for sustainable development goals, and also attended the launching of the Sustainable Development Goals at the UN in New York in 2015. As a result, I had the privilege of incorporating all those. So I'm now going to share my slides. In addition to this, there was the Millennium Development Goals. Those Millennium Development Goals, okay, I'm going to share my slides. Okay, didn't achieve much. So we have to do something to make sure that the Sustainable Development Goals are achieved. Coincidentally, at about the same time, in around 2013, the 2063, the African Union agenda was being worked on. I spoke to some of those people. I was very disappointed on how limited they were going at the African long-term perspective. So I wanted to do something different, or build up on what is working and what's successful, what other organizations, other countries are doing, rather than making a negative critique of it. What can we do to make it a very progressive agenda? This work is going to be really what we can do to unleash the human potential. How can we really engage every person? All of us come with the five, six senses, according to what you wanted to think about from. And with those senses, all of us as humans are equal, and we can be able to mix them to achieve whatever we want to do. In other words, what I'm thinking of doing as a guiding principle is that if every person can be engaged, motivated to put their potential, they can be able to achieve whatever they want to do. And in the African case, the situation is very, very challenging, and there are huge opportunities. So I wanted to go there. So this is what for EPR is, as you said, the four is, and the productivity revitalization, what it starts for. So I set up these 4 goals. There are 10 goals that I created. These 10 goals are, the top 4 goals are every family affords to live in a modern home, or like an apartment, electricity, running water, appliance, and so on. And they will be able to afford those by improving their productivity. And goal number 2 is every school child is going to school getting the necessary education to be ready for the new and challenging way of life. All capable people have work in diversified economic sectors that are more than pays for their needs in their improved standard of living after all the necessary government taxes are paid and have savings for emergency and their retirement. The environment restoration is proceeding well with decreased deforestation, better protection of the flora and fauna and agriculture that stops erosion of the fertile land. And number 4, there is an efficient healthcare system that takes care of every person whenever they need it and not far from where they live. Other services such as entertainment center, faith centers, and so on are also available for leisure. These are the top 4. Why are they there? Because these are immediate needs, urgent needs that every Ethiopian or every African must have. So let me guide you through. Now we set where we are going. Let's go to what the situation currently is and how we wanted to go there. So in order to be able to do this, what do we have to do? We have to disrupt bad processes, exploitive, oppressive, discriminating, inefficient, meaningless, obsolete, and archaic systems. You know, people are still farming with ox or donkeys, or they are using hoes and shovels. They are walking to buy their necessities all day. We have to stop all those. Stop suffering, bleeding, high mortality rates, and humanitarian actions, forced migrations, and endless catastrophes. Okay, these things must be done fast before things are getting worse. The population of the continent is rising between 2.5 and 3% every year. Africa will be over 2 billion, not in not too distant future. For example, the Ethiopian population is going to be around 140, 150 million people in the next 10 years. Nigeria is probably going to grow in the same rate. So what do we do? The means of production and all the other things are not improving at the same pace. Global warming is coming at a fierce speed. A widening of inequality, corruption, greed are all creating havoc, and they will be getting worse unless they are curbed. Then I had this thinking in me, empathy, and Osiris, the 4 C's, compassion, cooperation, and co-prosperity must take center stage. Those are the things that I have been thinking. So with those, I said, you know, a vision statement. As a push to disrupt and replace the exploitive, oppressive, and divisive systems continue, new people engaging systems must be in place. A paradigm shift must be made with new bold goals and all-inclusive actions set in motion for leap change in productivity and to expedite sustainable development and peace in developing countries. That is a vision. We have to make a paradigm shift, and we have to make a bold move, bold goals, and get in motion. Otherwise, what is happening is unbearable, and it's going to create us into a future that none of us, no citizen of this planet would like. Having, you know, as soon as they came out of the, you know, a few years after they came out from the Second World War, many countries, you know, all countries, I must say, came up with what they called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Unfortunately, at that time, many African countries were still under colonialism, so they didn't have a direct input, but through their colonizers included, set this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I want to put them, you know, Article 25, and it is also page 178 in my book. Everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care, and necessary social services. Everyone must have the right for a standard of living, okay? Everyone must have the security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, or other lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond his or her control. This is a declaration the world made 70 years ago, 71 years ago. This is a guiding. This is where we have to be. This is the basis why I set my 10 goals. Now, the Human Development Index. This is a document that is published every month, reviewed every month, and shared with the world community. And you can have, access it if you go to Human Development Reports. The United Nations publishes this. It has got an index. It is a composition of 3 important parameters. The health of the people, measured by how many years they live from birth, the education level, and the income level, okay? They do a mathematical formulation of every country, and out of 189 countries, Ethiopia has been in the last 4 or 5 years average around 173rd or 174th position. Nigeria, I checked it, was in the spot of 158, 157 spot. Okay. Oh, what does that I went and gleaned through what is in their numbers. For Nigeria, the health figure or the life expectancy is indicated between 53 and 54. The average life expectancy of a Nigerian is between 54 and 53. And that is probably the #1 factor that puts Nigeria away. And it just reflects the insecurity and the terrible situation that's happening in Nigeria. The education figure for Nigeria is around grade 8 level, or 8 years of education. The income level is the highest compared to Ethiopia. It's about $5,200 US dollars under a measure called purchasing power parity. For Ethiopia, the numbers are, the health, the life expectancy is much better than Nigeria, 66, 67 years. Education level, however, is poor, 2.8, 2.7 years of education, and the income level is around $1,700 US dollars. These are the numbers. See, the health, the education, the income level. These are the targets we have to work on. If we work on those, then we can be able to improve. Well, I don't want to give you to run with this through the 17 United Nations goals, but these are the 17: end poverty, end hunger, and ensure healthy lives, quality education, achieve gender equality, water and sanitation for all, energy for all, and so on. I urge you all who are attending that you all owe it to yourself and to the causes that you stand for, that all of you learn these 17 goals by heart. They are very simple to remember because they apply to Africa, particularly, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 of those. All of them apply to Africa more than any other country or any other continent. So this is where, because it was signed by 193 countries in New York in 2017, it is probably the most global consensus-reached document that the world has ever seen. So it is a very important document that we have to really abide by, and that is where we are going. So if we have the goals, if we have the vision, how do we go about it? I set up 5 guidelines. #1, with the right drive, motivation, enviable goals. People can build and achieve anything. Inhibition, fear, and cannot do it mindset must be washed out. And the paradigm shift has to be made. Developing countries must focus on addressing their needs using their own resources and means. No more aid. We don't need aid. Aid inhibits human creativity, human effort. Number 4, stop brainwashing people with an education system that's not transferable to their country's needs. We train university graduates, college graduates, and they don't get jobs. Why are we spending our time? That those education systems must be really prepared to make the people live better. Number 5, citizens in every country that are great resources are available. They are either outside their country or in their country. With the right attractions, motivations, and influence, all this will be part of it. So we will not be starting in the dark. Those are the guiding lights I wanted us to follow. Okay? Before I go to the realities, I wanted to have the questions and answers. If you have any questions.
Yeah, could you part 4 of the list you just had? Could you elaborate further on that? Because what you said was very important. Could you elaborate on that last slide, part 4, for us?
Okay.
Yeah, this the brainwashing, because that's a very important part of what you're discussing, and by extension, it's also a very important aspect of both the Ubuntu dialogue and Osiri University. So I want to, if you could, please um, uh, uh, discuss further.
Okay. Well, what that means is the education system that is currently in place is archaic, particularly as it happens to the African countries. That first of all, it is given in a language that, if we take Ethiopia, less than 10% of the people in Ethiopia use English. Okay. However, all the university education is in English. In fact, starting from grade 8, people are, forced to do their research, do their studies, their reports in English. So what we are trying to do is, the human development or the human resources are disjointed from the population that they are doing. So what we have to be doing is that we need just in time, just as needed basis kind of education. The students that are being taught has to match to what the people want. Okay, if the people want how to live in a better home and have clean water, energy, and so on, the education system right from day one must be focusing on how to get those things, how to make the hygiene, the economic condition improve at a faster pace. Well, what happens if we continue with the current education system, which is disjointed? We are sending more migrants out of their countries because there is no prepared workplace suited for these newly graduating people. So we have to really rethink the workplace and the education system. That is what we have to do. All right.
Yeah, it seems like you're attempting to address the brain drain in Africa, whereas the best and brightest leave the continent, regardless of what country they're from, and those mental educational resources are used to build up Western societies rather than focusing those resources, those human resources, in Africa where they're needed.
Correct. I will share in the next set of slides in part 2 what are the realities in Africa, what are the priorities in Africa, what are the needs in Africa, and with our population we can designate people to focus in a certain area, the elites, and the others to work on what is needed. 80% of the education system must be redirected into achieving what the country, the continent needs.
No. Excellent point. Excellent point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to echo what Dr. Paul Easterlin was saying earlier on, but my point is on the second one, where it speaks about inhibition, fear, and cannot do it mindset must be washed out. I think there's a lot of ambiguity around this. I mean, it's not so straightforward to wash out colonialism and things that African people have been subjected to over the years. And then you just expect fear and cannot do it mindset to be washed out, as if it's just as simple as, you know, churning clothes into the machine. So it's kind of very interesting to see this as one of the guidelines, and again to look at the structures and the institutional structures within these countries and how they enable fear, they enable inhibition, they enable cannot do it mindset. And citizens are constantly trying to cry out and say, you know, listen to us, listen to us. But it seems like even the government is like self-sabotaging ourselves, not just that we've been given guidelines, but we're not even abiding by these guidelines. I don't know if you have, you know, something to add to this, or if you could shed more light on this.
Yeah, it's a very good question, good point. In fact, the whole set of what paradigm shift stands. We are conditioned right from birth to think as to what others made us to think. Okay, the colonizers, you know, Nigeria and many other countries included, kept their people in the dark. Okay, I was talking to a Jamaican figure. Until 1975, Jamaica didn't have a post-secondary education. They were told not to create one. They just refused. They have to go and learn in England. Okay, what that means is that we cannot do it. Okay, that mentality has been implanted in us, that in Ethiopia or any other countries, they wanted to use foreign experts in the aid programs that they are doing. So that is all built into us. We have adopted even some feudal systems whereby, you know, men should not be in the kitchen. You know, that's gender segregation. We have so many things that we have to do that paradigm shift to think as we see the world. Okay, these people need this kind of services and not guidance or dictation from others as they dictated to us. You cannot do it. Your job is to do this kind of stuff. So we go into that, but the paradigm shift is a mindset that that makes us do and see things as we see it, and not as we are conditioned by some force as we grow up. And that is still going on. You know, if it's a black person doing it, it's not going to be good. If it's a, you know, no matter what, you put 2 PhDs here, if he's, you know, if even a BSc white is not is better than a PhD black, or that kind of stuff. So that kind of mindset has to be wiped out. Okay.
Indeed. I agree with you in terms of the mindset, but I think it's the long work, it's a process that needs, and we have to own and take responsibilities ourselves. I've just got a question here by one of our attendees saying, how do we disrupt those bad processes? How do we stop bleeding and brutal injustice?
Well, we're going to come to that. If we focus, just hold the thought because it requires dedication, determination, and effort. So I'm hold to that thought. If I haven't addressed it in the next subsequent discussions, we will be looking at those. So let's go forward. Okay, what are the realities? Poverty, hunger, human suffering, high mortality rates, high birth rates, okay? Catastrophic disasters, mainly in developing countries. Lack of awareness, isolation, and expanding wealth gap. Environmental degradation, deterioration of agricultural lands, erosion, deforestation, pollution are all affecting developing countries. Social backlash, frustration, desperation, lack of peace are driving people out to migrate, to go into the wild seas. These are the critical issues that we have to address. Well, 2020 was a tumultuous year, okay? Pent-up frustrations, okay, due to the exploitative conditions are really being felt, and the youth are standing. 60% of Nigerians are under 25. The same number is in Ethiopia or in the continent of Africa. Okay, these people want some directions, so they have to have, they are frustrating. They, after spending so many years in college or university or even wherever they are really having, to rise up. Black Lives Matter in the US is, as you see it in around the world, and SARS, nationwide uprising in Nigeria. COVID-19 havoc. Well, the most revered country, the United States, are really negating democracy. Okay, and all other movements are really a year that created the frustration. I don't want to go through this, but for my own learning, I documented the series of events that have happened in Nigeria, starting from 1992 when SARS came to be in place, and how SARS became, became a monster, having to stop people, walking, freely with laptops and smartphones, and the police stops them, and all those kind of situations have created really some kind of rage. That is the rage that I wanted to use as a means to disrupt the state of affairs. Okay, this is a slide in Ethiopia and in other parts of, this is how they collect their water. Okay, can it be anything horrible than this? Look at this one. These are people, children, right from early age. Can we be able to do something about it? Can we be mad? Can we be enraged to do something? Is it because we cannot do it? Okay, these people, they are working hard for water that we are flushing to the toilet in few seconds. Look at their markets. They go the whole day to go to market with their donkeys, with their heads and all other stuff. And look at the crowded market, unhealthy conditions. Compare it to the 15-minute shopping trip to a supermarket or a shopping mall, or shopping online. Is this a situation that we have to continue living with? Why are there over thousands of Africans in the developed world enjoying life when they can change this and create a lot of opportunities for themselves and others? Okay, look at these people. Okay, these people on the right, they are trying to cut the crop, the harvested crop using a sickle, okay, to cut. I can't stand like these people to work, squatting the whole day. Go to the gym and try to squat for 20 minutes. You cannot do it. These people are working hard. This is a potential, a human potential that can be redirected to create an enormous wealth. Okay, look at this guy working, with a single agricultural farming is almost poor oxen. After working hard, cutting the crop, they are trying to harvest it. Wasteful effort. Okay, well, it's in all countries. This is Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast, the same kind of situation. We have to do something. We should not allow. That is a rage that would allow us to disrupt, okay? Well, listen, people before us have done enormous amount of things.
What is happening is we have to enrage ourselves to disrupt all this. The only way we can do, we can engage people. Remember, this activity, this approach is by engaging people. You will see in the slides that in the 11th, 12th century, Ethiopians dug and carved still the most renowned rock-hewn churches. 11, 12 churches are underground. This has been the situation. If you see the Lake Erie Canal, okay, 1812, in 1812, gone. In 1812, okay, so this slide shows how the Lalibela rock-hewn churches, the 584 kilometer long, the Erie Canal, dug by hand, 584 kilometers long, 4 feet deep, 8 feet wide canal was built from Hudson River in New York to Lake Ontario or Lake Erie in the middle United States by hand. Why are we not doing by hand, work by hand? All these people that are going on the streets, fight, can be able to be redirected to work on those. The umbrellas, environmental umbrellas, look at this. This situation is very, very critical. In the last 2 years, the new prime minister in Ethiopia, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, mobilized the Ethiopian people and planted 10 billion trees over 2 years, 4.6 billion the first year, 5 point something in the second year. Those are umbrellas to protect the environment, to conserve water, to provide all kinds of things. They help the world go better. Okay, so those are the rages that created that paradigm shift. Now, so in order to able to solve, we have to deconstruct the issues, the root causes. The root causes, okay? People are unaware. 80% of the Ethiopians live in the rural, isolated, scattered villages, no electricity, no television, no nothing. The information nowadays, they are getting some information using mobiles. But basically, there is isolated. If they don't know, how can they aspire? They are using primitive ways. They lack industrialization. Education system as inapplicable, low productivity. I showed you all those. Then there is this scarcity germs, okay? Leaders are corrupted because they don't get enough income from the people through taxation. They get their help from aid, the so-called aid, and those aid are really dictating what needs to be done, how to suppress, how to how to be able to get their loyalty from the people, and those kind of stuff. So we are going into that direction because of the poor poor productivity and external solutions. Okay, the solutions that are trying to solve the problem are dictated by those agencies that are saying that you should invest them in this kind of, your education system has to be this, you have to work on this, you have to hire external consultants and so on. So it is being dictated. And there are no strategic plans that can free Africa in the near future. Even the so-called 2063 United African Union agenda doesn't show any market progress. So that is the root causes. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a single capture of all the working practices of people in the rural Ethiopia, but the same thing in all kinds of African living conditions. Next slide, please. So we have to change that paradigm shift, the mindset to creative ways. Student graduate, okay, we have to have that mass action going into working on what people need. So if you have 1,000, 2,000 people on the streets, give them hoes and shovels, let them dig, okay? Give them a promise, okay? Make them a promise that if you work on this project, you are making your own new modern home. You are making your own water supply system. You are making your own roads, bridges, and so on. Those can be done. I can tell you one example here. In Ethiopia, a general contractor took a contract to build a road, and there was a water diversion project. This guy won the bid, but when he was about to start work, he couldn't find heavy machinery, bulldozers, tractors, and so on. And if he waited, he could not be able to do some kind of work. So he turned to the villagers nearby with hoes and shovels and so on, and told them, I will give you all the money that I have set aside for renting a machinery, and but you have to do it according to the spec. Oh, the people took the challenge. They worked day and night, and they did the project within 2 months ahead of time. The guy, had he stopped, waiting for the machinery, he may not have done it the same year or the next year. So incentives, motivation, interest can drive people. Students can be good assets in turning around the country.
Mr. Betterhorn, if I may interject,
yes.
What you're saying is very interesting. I don't want you to rush through this because you have to come back, obviously, to finish this conversation. And I don't think it's something that we need to kind of jet through, because there's a whole lot of conversation to unpack here. I just want us to pause here, and if you don't mind, we can invite you again to come back possibly next week, and so that we can take a couple of questions from the attendees. I hope that will be okay with you. Is that fine?
Sure.
Yes, let me see some of the questions we have in the chat. So how do we get past certain mindsets amongst ourselves, feelings that we need to only work for ourselves, right? Instead of having a community mindset, we have a very selfish mindset. How do we get past that? Because what you're suggesting is huge, but it needs people who are looking past themselves and looking towards the future. how do we get people into this mindset?
Well, for people who are in this session right now, okay, have you started looking what we are trying to do? Other possibilities, okay? Always we are preoccupied by what others are doing unto us, okay? We have to get out of that. We have to start thinking, what can we do to help that poor woman or poor man that are trying to make ends meet, okay? Can we do some kind of redirecting? We don't want to attack the poor officers, security police officers who are forced to do that because that's the only way they can get paid and feed their families.
Right.
Can we redirect it without getting into opposition to the ruling government? It's saying that let's do it together. Let's do it together. Let's redirect, okay? I'll go back to the Ethiopian Prime Minister's agenda, okay? Using $0 from outside, okay? He turned the lives of those people who have been living on collecting wood, firewood. He changed the lives of thousands of unemployed people to work on what he called two national projects in the capital city in Ethiopia. One is two park projects. These park projects, I will share with you his video. They use zero outside material except lights and so on. They used all local origin material. They used people's labor. These parks are, in fact, one of the best in the world. These parks, acres and acres of parks inside Addis Ababa were created using people's power. Now, that people's power created a tourist attraction that's going to generate billions of dollars, US dollars every year for the local economy, okay? He created using people's power. He created using natural resources. He saved people out of meager living conditions. He created continuous flow of money to the country from happy tourists that are coming to the country. Okay, he doesn't have to dig a single oil like Nigeria. Nigeria is endowed with so much oil. Okay, and instead of doing what the other people are advising them to do, turn it around and motivate these students to do to build their own homes, their own infrastructures. They will be more than glad to work day and night when they are motivated. I can give you lots of projects on this, but let's continue.
So, how does the diaspora get more involved? The African diaspora.
The African diaspora, instead of echoing what is being said in the media, okay, they should be able to think backwards and see. Okay, we don't have to. We don't require so many people. Remember, Facebook was started by a single individual. He collected. Now you know how much that company is close to $600 billion worth. Okay, it is a human endeavor. A human endeavor. There are so many things that we can do using our own resources. Okay, what we have to do is really take this thing into heart and be able to work in getting people engaged. Now, there are so many bright and very innovative Africans in the diaspora who can be able to really take this kind of approach. Now, I am going to be, I've been working on this for several years, and I'm giving this kind of courses, this kind of thoughts are being shared. I have a book. I don't know whether you see my book. I have a book called Engineer Sustainable Development. You'll see it in my website. I put it on Amazon in 2016, 2017. It didn't have an uptake, so Amazon took it out because it's not one of their best books. Okay, it appreciates what the NGOs have done in the past 60 years, but given all the expertise and the money that they have poured in, nothing has come out. So we have to change a different approach. I admired and I appreciate they don't have to do it. They did it for us, but we have to change. We have to do it on our own. Okay, if we have children, Paul, if you have a child today, okay, in 20 years, you want to see that child pass through college and so on, be a better life. If we put our conviction, our determination, you can be able to turn so many young people, okay, into a future that you are going to be able to do. So there are so many things that we can do. It requires conviction.
Thank you so much for reawakening us, for waking us up to something new, something different, and we can actually dream again. I want to thank all of our attendees today for coming in, and my co-host, Dr. Easterlin, and every other person in the management of Osiri University as well. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Go to.
All right.
Bye-bye.
See you guys next week.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah.